Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. My guest today is Sue Kearney. Sue Kearney is a maker. She makes art, websites, healing potions, and beauty products, magic of all kinds. She mentors and teaches her unique take on living your best life, making your unique mark, and living in and from joy more, and from stress and angst less. One of her mottos is simplify your life. Sue has described herself as a barely tamed hippie and a recovering know-it-all. To be honest, Sue's still pretty damn convinced that she knows a thing or two and has plenty to teach. It's just that she's less committed to making you agree with her opinion these days. Creative, with a big personality and oozing vivaciousness, not to mention talent. It's this that made me fall in love with Sue. This is a raw, meandering conversation about art, aging, and dealing with grown-up tantrums. At one point, I give Sue a suggestion for having a tantrum with art, and she did it. So be sure to check out the YouTube video on the blog post for this podcast episode to see her gorgeous fluid art transformation for yourself. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Sue Kearney. Welcome, Sue, to the Wildspire podcast. It is a pleasure to have you join me today. And
I'm so happy to be here.
I would like to read something that I copied off your website. It's a description that you give of yourself. And you have a few different descriptions and such a beautiful, diverse background that I kind of wanted to set a tone for that. You are truly multi-passionate, multi-talented, and a force of nature as I have come to know you. And this is what you write. One of the things you write. I'm a sage holding a lantern at the crossroads for those walking their journey of life, expression, and fulfillment. I can create your website, teach you everything I ever learned about marketing and being in service with integrity and heart, help you start your next business, play with you as you unleash your inner artist, support your healing and aging like a badass. What does that bring up for you?
That is a good one. What does that mean to me?
Yeah.
Starting with the last thing in there, what that means to me is I think badass aging looks a lot like not stopping doing stuff. Many people my age, I don't know. There's this word in the culture, retire, right? And a lot of people my age and younger now, way younger, have more. They're not. I don't know. They're not engaged in life. Like I don't know what it is, but I feel like I am here to be in flow and connect with people and create and co-create and collaborate and make beautiful things and inspire people. And I think that living from that, no, despite my age, is pretty badass.
I agree. You are my hero in that regard. You know, I know I actually happen to be blessed by knowing several people who are what we might call of a mature age. That's a horrible way to put it. I don't know, like badasses as they ascend in years. You're showing that something else is possible than the stereotypes. And that is inspiring to me. So thank you for that. And it's a part of what has drawn me to you regardless of age. You have this vivaciousness and life about you. And also you're incredibly talented. So that doesn't hurt either. It's an entertaining. Okay. Entertaining. This is why I wanted to reach out to you in the first place. But would you, Sue, do me the honor of
Wait, I had another piece for that from what you read. I don't remember all of what it said, but I know that way I framed it about teaching everything I know. I feel like my work has changed as I season and age. My work has changed, and it really over the last pandemic year was revelatory for me as it has been for a lot of people. I made some big changes in where I'm putting my energy, and it feels like legacy work. It feels like legacy work. I am very much inspired by my adult daughter asking me 4 or 5 years ago, maybe when I did my first Creating the Impossible course, to write a book and leave everything for her, all my recipes, all what I make and what I do. And I started a book, but I never got anywhere. And now, this many years later, I'm creating e-courses and one-on-one experiences with me where I walk. Mostly I'm creating my legacy work in this way of leaving self-study courses behind. I'm reducing the amount of one-on-one work I do. But when I do that too, that feels like when I do that, and I still do branding, coaching and websites and other kinds of things, it also feels like legacy work. I want to pass on what I've learned. I want to pass on what I've learned and what I have found to make entrepreneurship or solopreneurship, which is more my niche, less fraught, more fun, and more to where you know that what you're putting out there is actually your voice being spoken, your true voice, your true message, your true offers being spoken in a way they can best be heard. So yeah,
it just came back to me, Sue, what the first time, or maybe one of the first times I clocked you. I was like, oh, who is this Sue? I said, I think I left a question on a post that you had made about something artsy. And I was like, are you leading artistic journeys for people? Are you taking people on these creative artistic journeys? And you were like, message me. But I saw it and I felt it. And I was like, oh, yes, you are. If you're not, like, you are. I want you to be. Please be.
I am. That's what I do with my brand foundational work is, before I do a website for people, it's pretty much a requirement around here that you do this foundational work with me, where you get the clarity you need to hire me or somebody else to make an aligned website for you, or an aligned brand, implement a brand that you've thought out. When you implement and create and visually create a brand that you've made a foundation for, I think it's much more likely it's going to actually work for you than if you just buy a website in a box.
Yeah.
And have somebody make it pretty. That's what I'm here for.
Cool. So will you tell me, Sue, about art bombs?
Sure. So
that was an evil laugh if ever I've heard one.
It's funny. It takes me back to my beginnings as a crafter maker. I worked with my friend Jenny. We were in a coven together. We were Wheel of the Year, goddess worshiping, ritual creating group. And I glommed onto Jenny, and I would sit by her side, and we would make things for people to make magic with, like mojo bags and little cards with decorations, and then we'd string ribbons in them. And so from that, we'd also take like the excess that we'd made, say we made 20 of them, we only needed 15, we take them and then we go for a walk and tie them to trees and fences and gates and just kind of art bomb, mojo bomb the neighborhood with beautiful handmade, mysterious things. You know, have you ever seen like parking meters with crocheted cozies around them? Or, you know, that's art bombing. You know, or graffiti is art bombing. And this was us art bombing with little handmade. We put them in the notches of branches, you know, and they'd be small. And so,
so what?
I'm doing something like that now. Have you seen my postcard pen pals project?
Mm-hmm.
So our friend Nina Lockwood turned me on to it. She sent me a collage postcard in the mail, and I was so delighted I sent one back to her. And now I make these collages on direct mail pieces, and I turn them into a two-sided art piece. And then I put an address on one side and a stamp, and I stick them in the blue box, and they get delivered. One got delivered without a stamp. It's crazy. I think I have local mail handlers who are getting a big kick out of this project. And anyway, so I'm still doing it.
So what do you see as the value of art bombs? What do they do?
What's the value of where you put your energy and your bandwidth, if not to follow a creative impulse that feels good, you know? So it's like, what's the value of making art at all? I don't know. I don't know what the value is. And as an artist who actually sells work now, valuing art is that's a whole other story. But it couldn't hurt, as my mother would have said, it couldn't hurt to put more beauty into the world. And every time I drop one of those in the blue box, because I don't leave them for the mail carrier to pick up. I think that would involve another human being and their opinion. So I put them right in the blue box. And I kind of like kiss them as I send them off. There's just that I am making a connection with a friend or a colleague, somebody I thought of in the moment, and I don't have too much on who gets them. It just who comes to me in the moment. And I also have people asking for them now. But what's the value of receiving something handmade in the mail?
These days, it's rare. That is so
And
rare.
I don't sign them. They're anonymous. So I went to see a friend for her birthday, and I gave her a birthday card that was made from a piece of art. And she looked at it, and she looked at me, and she said, "Did you send me a postcard about a month ago?" So, yeah.
So what does it do for you, Sue, to do this, to create these art bombs or send these postcards?
You know, I've been mulling about why I do what I do, why I spend so much time making things with my hands. And I don't know that it's just feels like a good way for me to be a channel for creative energy. And I like the way that feels. And I'm a slut for feeling good. That feels good. I want to do it, a lot until it doesn't feel good anymore. And this is not, I've gotten into things and dropped them in the past, and who knows, may someday find myself in a situation where art doesn't make me feel like I'm getting a ton of juice out of every squeeze, and then maybe this time I'll get that that I'm yearning for, or it's just it's a loud and clear siren call for me, Steph, and I don't know how to tell you why about it more than that.
May I tell you what it does for me to know that you're doing that?
I would love to know.
Yeah. When I ask her like that, you have to say yes.
Of course.
It is the idea of it is absolutely delightful. I love creation for the love of it. I love doing something just because for the whimsy. I love the experiment and the adventure of I'm going to send this handcrafted bit of creative expression out into the world and I don't know where it's going to end up, but something's going to happen to it. And I don't know what. It's amazing. And I've seen things like my dad lives in a neighborhood where they do this thing and I've forgotten now what it's called, but the residents of the community paint these rocks with different words on them. They might have like the word love on it or little figures or something, and they hide them around the neighborhood. And I found one. And so you find it and you put a little hashtag on it and you share it on social media and then you hide it again. It's like passing it
Like
on.
geocaching. That's really cool.
It's like geocaching, right? But like for me, finding this was like, oh, cool. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something, right? Like that's not an accident that this is there. But there's something about that. I came across a book years ago that was called Found, I think. And it was about these little bits and letters that someone had found, pieces of paper, scraps of paper, grocery lists. And they curated all of these little pieces of things. And they were like little pieces of people's stories. And they made a book of them. And they told stories about them. And there's just something about seeing something that someone put this there. There's a story behind it. There was an intention or what whimsical as it may have been. And then when you do something like an art bomb, I can just feel when I see it that somebody had a hope when they put it down there that someone might just be as delighted as they are to receive it. And it's just so magical. I think it's really magical.
I want to say something at a deeper level or a different level of truth about why I make stuff. Just in case anybody who ever hears this can benefit from it. It could also be because I have addiction in me a mile wide. And I used to say, and I'm going to say it again, I've never let go of anything that didn't have my claw marks all over it. So I habituate. I'm a recovering addict and I habituate really easily. So it's something that art and painting is something I got so turned on to and is something that I could practice right here at home. It's just been a perfect thing for me to do. And it may also be something that calms my nervous system in a way that I totally love and appreciate because I think I'm what's the word? Nurturing the capacity to just be and not have a project going all the time. And I'm someone who loves having projects and gorgeous stuff to work on and put out in the world and to feel like I can, which I didn't. I'm just recently, what is it, 2-3 years now I'm an artist? I don't think I called myself an artist until about maybe 2.5-3 years ago. I did. So I'm late. I'm late in life. Mm-hmm. And it's all, it was just, I'm not good enough. I'm not trained. And I still have all those voices, but whatever got me here, it's been a huge gift. It's been a huge gift. I can not only create things that are fun to look at, but now I can teach other people how to play around with it too. And play around in other ways that I find to be empowering and freeing and fulfilling.
Yeah. Does that seem funny to you now that you didn't call yourself an artist? Like, do you look back and see that you've been an artist all along?
No, I've never ever considered that till this moment. I can say yes now from this moment, looking back from this moment, I haven't, but I didn't know it. There's a striving to be like others.
Hmm.
There was, yeah, I, yeah, to try and do it the way I saw was working for somebody else. And there was really, I don't know what happened or how it happened. And I have a feeling that how it happened and it has a lot to do with some of the courses we've met each other on. A lot to do with the way I've been set free inside myself to, I don't know, be more fully expressed in my life. My e-course about fluid art is called Make Your Mark, Express Yourself, or Express Yourself, Make Your Mark. And was it you? Somebody asked me today, what does making your mark really mean? Or something about that. And when I say that, when I talk about that, I mean being able to just have very little in the way of the impulse and the movement, the impulse and the whatever, if it's a stroke of your pen or the brush, or if it's the way you stir your food in the pan, or if it's the way you present yourself in a challenging conversation. To make your mark from a grounded place, an open place, feels really different. Everything we do makes a mark. Everything we do makes a mark. What kind of, where do I want my marks to be? Do I want my marks to be more spit on the lowest parking level of the garage? Or do I want my mark to be
Hey, I'm all about the honking loogies on things.
I can't believe the images that come to me sometimes. Or do I want to be tracking a hummingbird in flight? And there's a different vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I like the vibration of feeling connected and expressive and free to express. That's why even though I work really small at this table behind me for my art, I often stand up to do it, because when I stand up to do it, I can feel the connection even better. Although God knows, I hope I feel it sitting down, because I do plenty of content creation on my computer too. So I hope that the flow is there.
Oh, yeah. Well, it seems to me that because we are the creation and we are the flow, it can move in any posture.
Right.
So when you take someone on an artistic journey, a creative journey, whether it's in their branding, around their website, in their business, whether you're coaching or you're doing more of the business and marketing side, or you're actually taking them on an artistic journey like your fluid art course or anything else. And you have other things too, right? Because you're doing these cannabis products and also the functional movement and fitness. I mean, like, holy cow, you've got all over the place. Like, so you're taking someone on this journey of making their mark, this creative journey. Do you see them as an artist? How do you see them?
Oh, that's really wonderful. Yes, of course I do. But the flavor. Oh, this is interesting, huh? The flavor's a little different when I'm working with somebody on their brand and their web copy or their marketing copy, because for some reason, after all these years of being in marketing and design um, and studying with some really good coaches and doing a lot of coaching around this, it turns out that I'm really good at extracting from what my clients say and write the compelling copy, the compelling copy that in the way I see things, we got to say the least as possible on web pages, as compellingly as possible, to keep your visitor on your website for the more than 1.8 or 2.4 seconds that they will stay on there long enough to get to the call to action and click the button and accept your invitation. And I know how to do that. So the journey I'm taking people on is I listen. I listen and I read, and I listen to them, and I read what they write, and I help them see the jewels that are right there, but I have the ear or the eye or the both to help put that, organize it in a way that's more likely to get a few more seconds on the website long enough to click.
So I play with a lot of entrepreneurs who they want to be more creative. Now, some of them identify as creative in a certain area of their life, but they don't in other areas. Or some people actually think that they're not really creative or they're not artists, but they would like to be. And I see the seed of that which you desire, that which you aspire to be is already alive in you, just waiting to be fully acknowledged and expressed. But I'm wondering that, like, let's just take an artist or someone who wants to be an artist. They want to be more artistic because you have this gorgeous course that shows people how to do fluid art, which, first of all, tell me what fluid art is. It's like, for people who don't really know what fluid art is, it's actually a thing, right? So
yes, a thing. So
it's not just like fluid art. I'm going to be all flowy.
I'm going to stand up and be fluid, and my art will be beautiful. So when you're making a fluid art painting, you work horizontally. And the reason you work horizontally is because you have added a medium to your acrylic paint, which makes it flow. And you drop it by one of many means to your surface and then move it by one of many means. You can often tip it, or my favorite techniques are blowing air either through a hairdryer or a straw on it, which moves the paint, or dragging chains through the paint. Like, this is a chain pull.
Ooh. Now,
so
if you're listening to this on the audio, you can't see it, but it's like, it looks kind of like cabbage leaves and waves to me. Like, it's got to come. It's beautiful, beautiful pattern.
You. So my favorite techniques are dragging chains through the paint and blowing paint around with air. And then you can also work on paper and tiles and all different kinds of surfaces. I recently poured the mailbox here where I live. I poured the top of the mailbox, so the lid is really beautiful. And I poured it on a belt that I wear, but mostly, and then on paper, I then use my painted papers and I cut them up for collage. So my course is about my favorite techniques: the breath and air technique, the chain pulse technique, painting in layers, and the collaging. So and I teach like I teach it. As things occur to me, I illustrate them. It's a lot of videos of my hands at work, videos from over my hands, and narration, and I point things out, and I just keep encouraging my students to just try shit. Just try shit. Just answer that, go for that. What if I did it that way? So it's fluid art is an invitation to be in flow. Every time I go to create a piece, I almost always have an idea in mind of what I'm going to try and create. I almost never get that. But what I get is often compelling. Sometimes it's beautiful. It's always fun, and I can always paint over it. As Nina says, it's only paint. It's only paint. So
she does. And the way I love that. So how is that? How do you see this flow that you experience with fluid art, like quite literally, but also that energetic flow with fluid art? How do you see that mapping over into life?
Well, one of the flow, it may sound like a negative thing, but for me, experiencing flow and fluid art has been a lot about restraint. To learn when to stop before I've gone too far. And you can go too far really fast with fluid art, as you can with pretty much anything, I'm sure. And so for me, it's about bringing it in and minimizing and using less and going less far to make the kind of visual statement that I want. And I forgot how you framed your question.
Yeah, that's cool because I forget how I ask questions too. And I just have to ask them again in a totally new way. So I think what I'm wondering is, how do you see, it's such a beautiful metaphor, right? It's a beautiful metaphor. When you talk about fluidity and flow and this balance of learning restraint even, there's something really beautiful in that speaks to me of the formless and the form, of the nature of creativity, of how things come into existence. So I'm really curious about how you see, like, what can we experience with art that helps us in our life?
So what a perfect time to ask me this question, because today I got told I have 10 weeks to move out of the place that I have been sharing with the owner for 4 years plus. I have 10 weeks. Now, that's a lot of time. And there's some, I'd like to be in flow with this. I would like to not act too hastily. And I would like to be sure I'm not grabbing another option, another opportunity out of fear or too soon. And it's like, how do I know? I don't know how to know. I don't know when, it's like, is there an alarm I should put on my watch that says by this date, you better panic and grab something? And I've recently resumed my sword form practice. I've been studying Tai Chi since the early 70s. And I studied sword for a couple of decades, but I haven't had a teacher in a long time and I've forgotten it. Now I'm in a class again. So I'm doing a ton of practice. And that's also about, in the Tai Chi sword form, you don't stop. You just keep going, but you root and you root again and you put your foot down and you root, but you don't stop. You keep moving. You root and you move and you root and change your route quickly. You can change, you're nimble and you're quick, but you're completely grounded. And if you'd stop, you'd be 100% weight on one leg without loss of balance. And boy, that's another good way for me to feel into being in flow, but not like a leaf in what do they call those, white category 5 whitewater, thing, getting tumbled around like ass over tea kettle. More like flowing down the center of the stream, but if I need to stop and plant myself somewhere, I'll know. And I'll be able to reach it and see it and know it. And let's drop, this metaphor is getting very flowery, but
I'm enjoying it. But if you're done, we can toss it out the window. I'm not attached in this moment.
Okay. I think it was good. And then it stopped being good.
That was called restraint, Sue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You get a gold star for that one. So I'm going to ask you another question around metaphor. You can crush it if you want to. I like this question. If the discovery of your new home was fluid art, it was a work of fluid art, what would it be? What would that be like?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea how to answer that, but it just feels so good to hear it. Yeah, you're nodding your head for those who are Not seeing Stephanie nod. She's nodding. I don't know, but I know that I know this is all I know because I am stirred up. I am stressed about this, so I'm not in my best, but I do know that I don't have to let the stress get the better of me. I don't have to stop eating. I don't have to stop rest. I don't have to be so stressed that I can't rest. I don't have to walk around this house with its changing population and be negative. I know I don't have to do any of those things, and that's freedom right there. That lets some oxygen in, that lets a little breath of fresh air to flow through.
I'm just imagining you, Sue, as this gorgeous work of fluid art that, all the words that you're using, I'm stirred up, and then I blow air on. I'm like, oh my God, you can stir up your paint. You can tip it and watch the paint run down the sides, and you can go too far, but you can always paint over it, or you can start it, and you can blow on it, and you can drag chains through it. Oh my God, that's a good one. Like how gorgeous. And yet there it is. In every case, it's this beautiful expression of something. And I almost wonder if you painted it, like you actually brought the intention, a very light intention to, okay. So I have a client who's a dance movement therapist. And whenever she has a question about her business or her relationship or a client or anything, she dances it. She puts on some music and she lets her body show her something. And she just notices what happens. Like she'll ask a question like, what do I need to know about this new membership site that I want to create? And then she'll just intuitively pick a piece of music and dance. And every time her body tells her, it shows her, she sees something in it, in that movement. And I'm just wondering if it might be movement for you. It could be because you do this, you're doing it. I know you're doing it. I can hear by the way you talk about it, that it teaches you something, like doing your sword stuff. I wanted to say sword play, but that's not what it's called, is it?
It's actually sword play when there are two of us doing it together.
Ah,
But the form, it's
the
sword form
form,
practice.
sword
Yeah.
form. So your sword form practice, your Tai Chi, your fluid art, your whatever you're creating, like you can dance with it. You can learn from it. I know that you are. And you could specifically ask about this thing that feels like it's looming and see what it shows you about home. What is home? What do you know? What is it like to rest in the home within as you call in the home without? That's how it strikes me as the moment.
Ooh, I like that. Rest in the home within as I call in the home without. Yes. Makes me feel like a turtle or a ladybug. But yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, but I like that. Being at home, being always already at home.
Yeah. It's a beautiful feeling that I think we have every time we drop into the present. And the only time we lose it is when we're not there.
Yeah. Yes. And and the first, and I'm just seeing that I've had moments of less than graceful and less than feeling fluid adjustment to this change, so there's the contrast is really apparent.
Though, how beautiful is that too? It's like, not all art is easy. Sometimes it's disturbing. Some of the best works of art are like, I look at them and I go, ooh, ugh, but it moves me in some way. And there's something compelling about it that draws me in. I remember being at art shows and, some pieces, some I don't get. I'm not one of those artsy people who has an understanding of why things are art and why they're not or whatever. But sometimes I'll just be moved by something and like a feeling. I have a feeling from it And sometimes it's troubling and there's a whole story, but I like it. Like I like to be disturbed in this way. It's like it's very alive. You know, for me, there's something that's alive in that experience and that expression. And I think about the person who created it. And there's something transcendent because somehow that artist, I may never see them, may never speak a word to them, but they've communicated something to me. I received something from them.
The thing about disturbing realities that, that kind of, well, like being told, like finding out I have to move because my housemate's adult son is moving into this house and needs the space I rent. So, um, um, where was I going to go with that? It, something in what you just said made me realize, oh yeah, I could see this as an opportunity. And then I remembered gratitude practice, which was a really big part of my life for a very long time. I got sober over 30 years ago and went to 12-step, and gratitude is a big deal part of recovery. And I remember a period in my life where shit would happen, life would happen, and I would just I go, I'm so grateful that I just lost this job. I'm so grateful that my daughter punched a hole in the wall. I'm so grateful, bah, 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 bah. And it has not occurred to me to say, oh, thank you, universe, for kicking me out of this living situation. I'm so excited about it. I'm so grateful. But I love thinking that that's possible, that's just as possible as any other way to step into this. A friend of mine once said that he assumes people want to help. And I was at a point in my life where I was like, what? Because that's not what I ever assumed. I don't ever assume that. I assume that I'm going to get no for an answer if I ask. And today, I looked at a listing that's back where I used to live in the East Bay in California near San Francisco. And I don't want to have to get there tomorrow from 45 miles away in rush hour traffic. I mean, Wednesday. So I called a friend who lives around the corner and she's going to go look at it for me. I actually just went ahead and said, I got a big ask for you. And she said, I can do that.
Wow. So that's kind
and
of.
then I called my sister to be backup, and my sister said yes too. So I would have had one of two people to choose from.
Wow. That's pretty cool to notice.
So I don't know if I assume that people will say yes, want to help, but I ask now, which is different.
And isn't that surprising that you're asking, not expecting that they will, and sometimes they do. And that's really cool.
Right. And sometimes they do.
Yeah.
And it's not about me if they say no.
Yeah.
It's also not about me if they say yes, but I probably wouldn't think twice about it when I'm said yes to. Yeah.
You know what? Oh, go ahead.
Although that's not true either. I'm going to say something more true now too, because there are many times in my life where I would ask for something, but then refuse it because why would I want something if you want to give it to me, you must not be worth much because I don't think of myself as worth much. So I would like angle to get included in things and then not go. You know, that Groucho Marx line, why would I want to be in a club that would have me for a member? So that's not there anymore, but it's been there for me a lot where I would ask and someone would say yes. And then I'd say, well, fuck you then. I must not really want it if you can help me get it. So yeah, I'm not in my own way as much as I used to be.
Well, I can see that as a fun game too.
Oh,
Riding
yeah.
that drama roller coaster is kind of fun. Something that came up for me when you were talking about whatever you were just talking about that I lost, but I have this. I remember hearing Kyle Cease say, because he works with a lot of people who want to create something new in their life. And he would say, we only know what we can lose. We only know what we lose. We don't know what's on the other side. And it's not even true that we know what we lose, by the way. We just think we know what we lose because this is the thing, like this looks real. If I give up this pen, I'm losing this pen. And I don't know that I'll ever have a pen again because I might never have a pen like this again. So I can't let go of it. And he was saying, his point was that we don't know what's going to happen on the other side. We don't know the gifts. We don't know the blessings that I put this pen down and maybe even a better one. There's space now for a better one. Or I mention it on my podcast or I mention it to Sue and she sends me the most amazingly gorgeous pen ever because I put this one down and I said, now I have room for a new pen. Universe, please send me a pen that I love. And there we go. Or something completely different happens. I don't know. But I just think it's a good reminder that we don't know. We make up all these stories about how the painting's going to come out, how it should look. But we don't know.
Yes. Yes, we do. Every single time.
And the painting is a metaphor for everything, right? Whatever it is, we make up that story about how it's supposed to look. And then we forget to enjoy how it actually looks and what it actually feels like, to enjoy what it feels like to be painting.
I made a painting once that I thought was too garish. I'd gone too far. It was just awful, but I decided I wasn't sure, so I hung it on my wall to see if I changed my seeing of it. And my housemate walked in and said, "Whoa, can I buy that?" So
yeah, I've written things and shared them because that's more my medium. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to get anything out of this because I don't know. I like it, but it's weird. Or, and sometimes people don't get it, but sometimes people do. And that's surprising and cool. And I would never know unless I shared it.
that's right.
So if I'm a person who wants to explore art and creativity, what would you tell me? What message would you want to give me that would help me on my journey?
Just try shit. Just try something. Just do something. And I, I know that, I mean, it's probably flip for me to say, take my e-course, buy a few tubes of paint, buy some pouring medium and a canvas or some paper and get started. It's like I've set this course up for stone beginners to give it a
Stoned
try.
beginners or stone beginners?
That's optional, but that was stone, S-T-O-N-E. Stoned is optional. You did mention cannabis before, and is part of my medicine, and I'm sure affects my creative output as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know why it was that I was able to go from someone who was trying to be an artist. I wasn't having much fun along the way. I was just so up in my head. I was trying to be, and then I don't know. I stepped into fluid art. Now, I don't know if it's guaranteed to light somebody up, but it sure did change everything for me about my relationship to what came through me and what ended up on the working surface. I'm much less agonized about it. I feel much more free, and sometimes I even feel like I'm a channel for something. Not always, but sometimes. And that I think is available. And I don't think it's the medium itself that conveys that gift. I think we all do that, right? We all, or I assume that most people have felt that experience of something interesting and satisfying that they made came through them. Could be in any kind of form. It could be getting a tangerine kid to bed. It could be dealing with COVID and isolation and finding not just peace and grace through it, but opening and opportunity and even if some people are just starting to feel that now, whenever that comes, that feeling of invitation and opening, and there's something there I want to go for, explore. That's an invitation to step into fluidity. It can even in your work, even in your work, even in your where you choose to put your energy, what you choose to develop and amplify, and what you choose to let go a bit.
Mm.
Am I rambling too much? I don't know.
One can never ramble enough. That's my rule. Well, I mean, you can, but we know, and then we stop, just like that.
Right on.
I, when I was younger, I think I was around like 15 or 16. I used to have these friends who were artists, and they were painting artists or drawing artists. And I had some skill before then. I had some degree of talent, and I would draw, and, I got good grades from my art teachers and all that, but it was never like, it wasn't as good as the ones who really had it in my mind. It wasn't, I couldn't just make something up out of my head. Like I could look at a drawing and reproduce something from it, but I couldn't just see it in my head and do it. And so somehow I thought, I'm not a real artist. I'm not really creative. And I remember journaling, writing about this and saying like, oh, I'm so drawn to work with artists. I wish I was an artist. And years later, I had always explored writing, and that was kind of my medium, but I couldn't even call myself a writer. I remember the first time I said I'm a writer, and it like the words choked in my throat, but it was good to say. And that was now probably over 15 years ago. But it wasn't until I think 2 years ago that I owned Storyteller. I went, I'm a storyteller? What? And when I look back,
That's a big shift right there.
holy cow, like, yeah, like I see it was there all along. If I can see it, it lives in me. It doesn't necessarily make me the kind of artist that's going to sell paintings, or the kind of storyteller that does international performances, although mark my words, I shall. Oh my God, I just said it. Oh, I'm going to go for that anyway. That's one of the many things that I will go for. But
You didn't finish the sentence. You shall what?
I shall tell stories on an international stage. There we go. That was my impossible project for 2020 that the pandemic kind of threw a big curveball in there, but I'm coming back to it. I'm looking at you, Japan. I'm coming to you, Japan. I'm storytelling on your stage. Anyway, my stepmother says, oh, Stephanie, you were always the creative one. And I'm like, seriously? Like, how did she see this? I never saw myself as creative. I never saw it. And now I cannot stop seeing it in everywhere I look, in everyone I see. I see how brilliantly creative they are when faced with a problem. I don't care if they're a plumber or a philosopher, um, or they're a baker. Like it doesn't, like, oh my God, do you not see how creative you are? And I'm finally seeing that in myself. I'm finally experiencing that in myself. It has nothing to do with me. It's just what we are. And the less I make it about me, the more fun I have seeing what comes out of me. And sometimes it sucks. Like sometimes I write things, I'm like, okay, that legit was crap. But there's usually something in it, right? Like even I imagine, like, do you find that if you do a painting and like it doesn't go the way you want, but there was something, or it took you to the next one or something, right? What do you see in that?
The take me to the next one is more present. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, next time I'm going to use a little less or a little more, or, oh, I want to try poking a hole through the canvas and dragging the chain through it, and what will happen if I do that, which I did. And it was pretty awesome. And so, yeah. So, and, you've talked about writing for a while. I'm walking away from my blog of 800 blog posts. I'm going to drop it. It's just, but I learned to write by just writing. And I think it was really good practice for me to learn how to express myself and clearly and make a point. And I think that although the mechanism is completely different, I don't know that you asked us 20 minutes ago about taking this into your life, taking the feeling of flow and fluidity into your life. But that's another way I see it too. I have more flow with my clients. I have more, somehow I give them more space and I listen to them better now. And I don't know what's caused me to change for that, what's caused me to open up in that way. But over the last couple of years that I've gotten my hands in the paint over and over again, I feel like there's more and more of availability for me to have that flow generate a lot of what I am moved to do and create, not just in my art.
Hmm.
And to go back, and in relationships too, it's kind of sad to think about because I've had a really good relationship with my housemate. The pandemic year made us really, really solid and really have each other's backs. And now that's disintegrating as she's taking over her son's life. And I get the opportunity to watch myself kind of contract in the relationship and then go, wait a minute, I don't have to do that.
Hmm.
I don't have to do that. I can still meet this situation and this moment and these interactions with compassion and respect. Or at least I can try, which helps. It really does help because there's, it's just, this is life flowing. This is life flowing. This change is happening. My housemate feels the need to take this kind of level of care of her son. And she needs to do it in this house. And that's what's flowing. And it's time for me to flow my ass out of here.
It just kind of reminds me, Sue, before you used the phrase, I stepped into fluid art, and I saw you, like, I had the image of you stepping into this puddle of beautiful paint and like sliding, almost like tripping and sliding. Like now you're flowing out of I don't know. It's a very goofy image, but it came to me, and I love it because I feel like it's so full of you. It gives me such a full experience of you. And I love throwing temper tantrum, Sue. Seriously. I mean, that is a gorgeous thing, as gorgeous as the compassionate, I get it. This is what you need to do. This is what you know you need to do. You know, I may see it differently, but hey.
Yeah, hostile Sue is not my best look. I don't love hostile Sue, and she was running the show for a few days around here, and I don't know how you see that as gorgeous, but I think I feel more gorgeous when I'm not believing that these collections of stardust in the form
Yeah.
of my housemate and her son are not out to hurt me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, that feels so much lighter. And I also, you know, I see what I see. Nobody else has to agree with me. I like it, just like a piece of art. I really like this piece. Somebody else may think it's ugly and it's whatever, belongs in a trash can.
And 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 maybe I'm over censoring myself because I want peace as long as I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe it would be useful for me to have said what came to my mouth today when she said I have to leave, was like, are you out of your fucking mind? But I didn't say it. I just don't know how this could be a sustainable thing. But it's where she is, and it's her it's her house.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's not about, it's like I get to experience what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing. And when I have just even a little bit of space, sometimes I know, like, okay, Steph, you're in a spot. You open your mouth right now, what comes out is not going to be pretty. I don't want to share that. It's like, I don't want to vomit it all over everyone else, right? Just because I'm feeling that. But it doesn't mean that I can't go off and vomit by myself. I
Right.
might. That might actually be really good for me. Or it might not. I don't know. But there's like a way of, I've just I am coming. I don't do a good job of this all the time. But my recent exploration is like, okay, what if I actually go into this, like, sensationally, not indulging the thinking, the thought loop, the thought feeling loop, and going like, oh yeah, like feeding it, but just being with it like an object of meditation, because the half-life of these things seems to be so short when I'm just with the sensation. It's the thinking that feeds it, you know? So it doesn't seem as scary to me anymore. I'm kind of exploring that a little bit more rather than avoiding. That's just where I'm at. I'm not suggesting that that's what anyone else should do, because there's a great wisdom in holding one's tongue, or,
Yeah,
stepping away.
I've been venting in more neutral territory, and
Yeah.
I'm not at my housemate, but to my friends. And it's been suggested to me that I do some tantruming, and I don't know how to do. I can't feel my way into that
What
yet.
if you
But
what if you paint it? Like, paint a tantrum. What would that be like?
yeah,
Like, there are
yeah,
all kinds of ways. Sometimes I write tantrums because that's a medium that works for me. And before I know it, I'm laughing, either crying or laughing or both.
or both. Yeah. It was like, was this a good day for me to do this talk with Stephanie? Because I'm so stirred up, and I want to talk to her from my full self. And I hope that we've been there. I know the last 10 minutes we've been talking about this housing situation. I started to feel stirred up again. But before that, I hope that we have had some useful to somebody conversation that might be inspiring, which is what
Well,
I hope.
it's useful and inspiring to me. How's that?
Dandy.
All right. Screw everybody else. If you don't like it, turn it up. No. So, wow. So you have this. I want to encourage you who are listening or watching to this to check out Sue's fluid art. Like, you need to see it. There's a video on your page, right? Like, or there's pictures of some of your fluid art
There's
pieces.
pictures, and then the e-course has plenty. If you click on the e-course on my website, it has plenty of pictures, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And the way it's presented is just like Sue was saying, just start, try something. It's accessible. It's accessible for someone who doesn't think they're an artist, or for someone who is exploring their artistic or creative side. Yeah, go check it out. If this has moved you. And so where's the best place to find out more about what you're up to these days, Sue?
I have a new website. It's very bare. It has very little on it except this e-course and my artwork. It's called SueKearney.com, and I spell my name SueKearney.com. And the on the homepage, you can click through and look at the artwork, or you can look at the e-course and sign up for it right there. And I also have at Sue Kearney on Instagram. And those are the places I am mostly these days. You can find me on Facebook, although I spend as little time as possible on Facebook anymore. So Insta and my website are the best places to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you for sharing everything that you do.
Thanks for getting into this conversation with me, Stephanie. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.